Interviewer. What is the test case for the software application? Candidate. A test case is a set of conditions or variables under which a tester will determine whether an application or software system is working correctly. It is a document that provides details on how to verify that the software meets the requirements and specifications. Interviewer. Can you explain how you create a test case for a given requirement? Candidate. Yes. I start by reviewing the requirement and then create a test case with a clear and concise description of the test objective, input data, expected output, and pass/fail criteria. I also make sure to include any relevant test data, preconditions, and post-conditions. Interviewer. Have you ever encountered a situation where a test case you created did not adequately test the functionality it was designed for? If so, how did you handle it? Candidate. Yes, it has happened before. When I realized that the test case was inadequate, I reviewed the requirements and made sure to adjust the test case to cover any additional scenarios that I may have missed. I then executed the updated test case to ensure that it adequately tested the functionality. Interviewer. What steps do you take to ensure that the test cases you create are reliable and repeatable? Candidate. I make sure to document each test case thoroughly and include all relevant input data, expected output, and pass/fail criteria. I also run each test case multiple times to ensure that the results are consistent and repeatable. Additionally, I make sure to verify that the test environment is set up correctly and that any external factors that could affect the test results are accounted for. Interviewer. Can you give an example of a complex test case you created and how you went about testing it? Candidate. Sure. One example is when I had to test a new algorithm that was being added to a system. I started by reviewing the requirements and then created a test case with different types of input data and expected outputs. I also ran the test case with different data sets to verify that the algorithm was working correctly. Interviewer. How do you handle test cases that fail during execution? Candidate. When a test case fails, I first make sure to document the failure with as much detail as possible. I then try to reproduce the issue to determine whether it is a problem with the test case or the software itself. If it is a problem with the software, I report the issue to the development team and work with them to resolve the problem. Interviewer. Can you explain how you prioritize which test cases to execute first? Candidate. Yes. I prioritize test cases based on their criticality to the system and the likelihood of them failing. I also take into account any dependencies between test cases and whether they are testing new or existing functionality. Additionally, I consider any risks associated with the functionality being tested and prioritize test cases accordingly.